Hey everybody, welcome in. Dave Solentap here with Guitar Tricks. I apologize for last Wednesday. I was actually on vacation and I forgot to mention to everybody in the class 2 weeks ago that I was going to be off last week. So I'm back on and no more vacations for me for a while. So we're going to finish our mode series here 1 week at a time. Tonight we're working on Mixolydian, something brand new. Cool. Let's see what we got here. Steve's here already, and Lisa from Michigan. Cool. And Steve from New Hampshire. Right on. So go ahead, open up the curriculum. If you look underneath the YouTube video, there's a text box there, and there's an area to print out the curriculum. So go ahead and do that. You should have 2 sheets in there. The one we're going to work on today is the neck diagram one. And then the one we're going to work on next week is the tablature notation one. Good deal. Hey, Jim and Richard. Cool to see everybody. So Mixolydian is a very cool and popular mode. Classic rock uses it a lot. And it's based off of the 5 chord in whatever key you're in. So I gave some examples up top in the text box there. Actually, right here at the bottom of the text box, we're going to be doing G Mixolydian because everything we're working on, I'm basing it out of the key of C major and the modes that are derived from the C major key. But I am going to be doing some other keys with the Mixolydian mode today as well. Hey, my niece hurts here. All right, cool. Love that screen name. He's only here for a short time. Hey, well, glad you got a job there. That's good. It's important that we all have jobs and contributing to the world and society. So if you like what you're hearing, my niece heard, just watch the rerun on YouTube. When I'm done, it automatically pops up on the YouTube. Hey, a bang's here too. Coolness. All right, good deal. So if we're in the key of C, the 5 chord in the key of C, and this is easy to do, people, because I picked the key of C because there's no sharps or flats. So all you have to do is count up 5 letters from C, C being 1. So C, D, E, F, G is the 5 chord, and it's a major chord. And you can look right here at the bottom of the text box. It says Mixolydian can be played over, G Mixolydian, I'm sorry, can be played over this chord progression, among others too. A very common one is to play, if we're doing G Mixolydian, is to play a G bar chord or power chord or open chord. And then you go to F. That's the 4 chord in the key of C. Then we go to C. That's the 1 chord. And then back to G. It sounds very common. We've heard that. A billion songs use that kind of chord progression. Or you can do it up here. G with the A4 bar at the 10th fret, F at the 8th fret, then C at the 8th fret with the E form, and then back to the G. Okay? And an easy way to think about this particular chord progression, people, it kind of looks like a backwards L shape. So if you're playing a G at the 10th fret, then you go back 2 frets, and then you just move that up a string, and then it resolves back to the 1. Okay, that's very common. I'm going to give you a few song examples in a minute too. Hey, King 50's here too, checking in from Northern Nevada. Good deal. Okay, so let me go ahead. I'm going to actually play. I've written a lot of songs in my music life, and some of the songs never get completed. I guess I got little riffs and parts, but I had this one riff that actually is Mixolydian, and I never really found a song to use it in, but I'm going to share it with you people tonight, okay? And it's actually in D Mixolydian. So if you think about your backwards L shape, okay, if we start with the D chord on the 5th fret with a power chord or bar chord, A form shape, okay? Hey, Zane's here, and then we move back a whole step to C, and then move that up to the 6th string with your E form bar chord, or you can just play the power chord. It's a G, and then we go back to the D. So you'd have like. Okay, but that sounds more like a classic kind of bluesy rock type of rhythm there. My thing is, my riff is a little more intricate than that, but it's basically those three chords: D, C, G, back to D. Okay, so what I'm doing is since we're doing D Mixolydian on this example that I'm going to play for you in a sec, and then we're going to jump into what the page says with these diagrams for G Mixolydian. But I just want to give everyone a little something to chew on here at the top of the lesson. So I'm going to play the D, open D string as the pedal point, and that'll help keep that D tonality going while I move parts of the D chord, C chord, and G chord on the top three strings. I'm actually going to be playing on the third and second string. Okay, so I'm going to be playing bar in the 7th fret on strings 3 and 2 with the open 4th string. And then for the C, I'm just going to move that first finger back to the 5th fret on strings 3 and 2 while keeping the open 4th string. And try not to play the first string, okay? Just play the 2nd and 3rd and then the open 4th string. Then for the G, I'm going to move back to the 3rd fret on the 2nd string and 4th fret on the 3rd string. And then the D at the resolve at the end, I'm going to come down and play this little shape of D. It's kind of like your cowboy chord D, but I'm going to play it with my 1st and 2nd fingers. On the 2nd fret 3rd string with my index, and then the 3rd fret 2nd string with my middle finger. So check this out. In the simplest kind of form, and usually when I write stuff, sometimes you just get a general chord progression, and then you can, how can I jazz it up? So here's the sound of it. And then I just come up with a little riff to take me back up to the beginning. Okay, and most of those notes, in fact, all of them are in the D Mixolydian scale, except for that 3rd fret on the 6th string. I don't want to break it down and go into too much on that, but it just goes 2nd, 3rd, 4th fret on the 6th string, and then open 2nd, 3rd fret on the 5th string, and then the open 4th string. Okay, now check this out. To fatten it up and add some little embellishments, some chordal embellishments, I'm going to be adding in notes on the 2nd string with my fingers that I'm not holding the chord down with. And these notes I'm adding in are part of the D Mixolydian scale. See that little fancy part? I'm putting around with the 8th fret 2nd string and then the 10th fret 2nd string. Then go back to the C, and I do the 7th and 8th fret on the 2nd string. And then for the G, I come back to the little shape I showed you a few seconds ago. And then I just go to the 5th fret 2nd string. And what I'm doing is doing little pull-offs from those extra add-on notes that I'm doing on top, pulling off to the little 2-note chord partial that I'm doing there. So from the G, and then that D. Oops. See, it sounds basically like a rocked up version of D, C, G, back to the D. So I've already recorded that rhythm for me to play over. And I'm going to play some licks over that too. My niece heard saying, times are getting hard for you, little girl. Words to a song, my niece heard? Yes, you're right. When we're doing D Mixolydian, the D is the 5 chord in what key, what major scale? You're absolutely right. It's G major. And again, you can count up on your fingers because G major actually is a fun key to use too, because it only has 1 sharp on the Fs, the F sharps. So from G, you count up 5 letters from G. G is 1, A, B, C, D is 5. So I'm basing a rhythm off of that 5 chord. And we don't want to get too complicated either. I've gotten some emails from people saying, well, what if I'm playing over something that goes D, A minor, G major, C major, and then back to D, or some crazy rhythm with a bunch of different chords in it. The modes, the best examples I would say, especially if we're just learning them, people, is keep it simple. And we're not switching modes for each chord. You know, on one chord, I'm doing this mode. On the next chord, I'm doing that. Usually, if you're going to follow the chords like that, that's more of a jazz and melodic approach to playing, where they don't really necessarily pick a key for the whole song, but they play licks and ideas that fit over each particular chord. And you'd have to know what notes are in the chord and what type of ideas sound good with that particular chord. A major chord has certain ideas that sound good with it. A minor chord has other ideas that are different that sound good with that chord. Then you get into 7th chords where you dominant 7s, minor 7s, and major 7s. So it goes kind of deep like that. So we don't want to go down that road right now with this mode stuff. Just keep it simple. Like I was mentioning to a few lessons back, sometimes you could just be playing over find a 1 chord vamp or backing track that's just 1 chord and just play over that. And then you can really get the sound of the mode. Occasionally there's 2 chords changes, like we're talking about with Lydian a lot of times, like Joe Satriani, Flying in Blue Dream. Just a C up to D and back to C, okay? Or playing like that would be a good Lydian idea. Remember, we talked about Dorian. Keep it simple, just 2 chords. Hey, Vinny Roth, what's happening? Appreciate you coming in and checking it out, Vinny. Hope you're doing well and teaching well. Great guitar player there. And it's good to hear you play, man. I hear some of your YouTube videos and really smoking hot stuff. And my niece Hurt says, yeah, that is what this riff sounds like. Great White song, but I think it was a cover song they did. Yeah, it could be. And you know what? Everything we write is, sometimes we'll write something that we think we made up, but then we'll hear a song like my niece Hurt saying that sort of sounds like it. So I might have been subliminally inspired by Great White at some point for that. So back to the ranch here, people. You're very welcome, Vinny. Cool. Keep rocking there, man. So the rhythm I got, like I said, is just D, C, and G. And then let me fire up my little backing track here that I recorded right before the lesson. So I'm going to play along with it and then just play some stuff over it. And then we'll get on to our lesson here tonight. So here we go. I'm going to crank it up. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so anyway, there we go. It's about 2 minutes of jamming there. Let me shut that off. So I'm just kind of screwing around, a couple ideas I came up with before the lesson, and then a lot of it was just winged off the spot. Cool. My niece started saying, if I could get paid for every song I wrote that sounded amazing, and then turned out to be actual someone else's song. Exactly. Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's AC/DC or Van Halen or Metallica or something like that. Hey, Second Chance Band, Marianne. Cool. Appreciate you dropping in here. All right, so let's get on to our lesson, folks, and show you what you can do with this Mixolydian mode. So what we got on page 1 here is the pattern for the G Mixolydian shape, just one of the neck diagrams. I've got the cage system here as the pattern 1, and then the next pattern is the 3-note per string version. So we can actually play this in 2 spots on your guitar if you got your electric guitar, which I'm sure most of us do. Let's start with the cage pattern. And by the way, too, if we're doing the cage pattern for pattern 1, can anyone tell me which cage pattern it is? Is it the C, the A, G, E, or D pattern? Which one is it? Okay. And we're going to start on the 6th string while you're chewing on that thought for a sec. It's the D form. It's actually, remember, we're in the key of C major here, folks. My knees hurt. So it's not the D form, it's the A form. So we're looking, I know the cage system is based on the bar chord shapes for the given chord of the key, the parent key we're in. Now, I know we're doing G Mixolydian, but the parent key is C major. So that's actually this pattern here. It looks like a C, it's an A form bar chord on the 3rd fret, makes a C chord. That's the chord, the parent chord that's in this shape. So if you come back to the C, it sounds like C major. So it's actually the A form of the cage patterns. So we're not going to talk about the cage stuff today. We can maybe make a series of lessons out of that later. But today, though, let's think about it. Even though we're in C major, we're going to shift the focus of it to the G note in the same scale. Okay, and that's the 6th string 3rd fret. It's also handy, everybody, to know where those root notes are in that pattern. So on your diagram, they're all the red dots, and they have a little R in them for root. Okay, so the root would be the 6th string 3rd fret, 4th string 5th fret, and 1st string 3rd fret. So you got 3 of them there. Now, if we listen to that scale, that's how it sounds. Okay, now let's think about this. Numerically, inside of the dots, I've put numbers. So the root is a red dot with the R. That's also note number 1. Then the next note has a 2. The delta sign, that triangle, it just means major. So it's a major 2 interval. Okay, don't worry about that. Just know that it's the 2nd degree of the Mixolydian mode. The 3rd note also is a major interval. It's a major 3rd. Okay, and then the 4 and 5 has a P in front of both of them. Those are perfect intervals. You're not going to hear a minor or a major 4th or a minor or major 5th. Although you will hear a flat 5 or a sharp 4. We talked about sharp 4 in Lydian, and a flat 5 is part of your blues scale. It's also part of the Locrian mode, but you don't call them major fours and minor fours or major or minor fifths. Okay, they're called perfect intervals. Okay, so don't worry about too much of that. Just know that it's note number 4 and 5. Okay, then note number 6 is got a triangle in front of that. That's a major 6 interval. And then the 7th note in the scale, that's the note that's different. That's a flat 7. You see how it has a little flat sign in front of it? That little flat sign looks like a lowercase b. And then up on top of the page here in the text box, let's see what I got here. The first couple sentences, it says Mixolydian is the 5th mode and starts on the 5th degree, or the 5th note of the major scale that it's derived from. We already talked about that. It's from the C major scale. Numerically, the scale notes are, for Mixolydian, and it's nice to know the numeric formulas because that shows you what the sonic difference is between the mode and the major scale, or comparing the mode to other modes or other scales. So it's essentially the Mixolydian's a major scale with a flat 7. See the numbers right there in the text box? It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. Okay, that's the difference. So if you were to play a major 7, not a flat 7, sounds like G major. But the Mixolydian is unique in the fact that the 7's flatted. Listen. Okay, that's part of it. You want to get used to that flat 7 sound. And because that's the note that's different, that makes the mode unique from the major scale, you might want to, when you're soloing, try to play that flat 7. And for G Mixolydian, what is that flat 7 note? Can anyone tell me what that is? For in G Mixolydian, what's the flat 7? Okay, we'll chew on that for a sec. And then the other option, folks, oh yeah, by the way, let's talk about playing that one up. My knees hurt. It's not C. C is the 4th note in G Mixolydian. Jim, you're right. Jim Gregory's got it. It's F. Damn it. It's all right. My knees hurt. This is good. It's good to think and stress your mind and try to get to know your notes on the fretboard and get to know a little bit of the theory. We don't have to know a lot, and I definitely don't know everything at all. I'm still learning too with you folks. But it's a fun journey. That's the nice thing about music, everybody, is when you think you know it all, there's still more to learn. You're never going to know everything in it. But that's what I like about it too, because I've been playing a long time, over 45 years. And if I thought that I mastered the guitar, it would start to get boring because, when you can do everything, it kind of takes away all the chase, the ride, the journey. But I don't know everything. And when I kind of get bored of one style of music, I tend to shift gears into other stuff. Like I started out playing rock, and then after a while, of course I didn't master it, but I just kind of was tired of it. That's when I got into playing and studying classical guitar and classical music, even classical music that's not guitar, like violin and piano music from Bach, Beethoven, Mozart. Okay. It's fun to do that stuff on electric guitar. Maybe we can do some series of lessons on some classical stuff that I've worked out on electric guitar. And then also too, after doing that for a while, I got tired of that, but not sick of it, but I just wanted to learn some other stuff. I got deep into the blues and really worked hard at that. So it's kind of, and one area that haven't dabbled in too much, but I can touch my toes in it, is jazz. I love jazz music, but I can definitely not keep up with any of those jazz players out there. I could kind of fake my way mildly through some of it, but I sound like a rock guitar player doing it. But that might be something in my future that I would want to get a little more into studying. So anyway, I encourage everybody just to branch out and try new things and try to figure this stuff out. Don't just learn the pattern and think, oh, I got my pattern down. Because again, just because you can play the pattern doesn't mean that you've got Mixolydian down. You've got to be able to use it. And how do you use it? Well, learn some songs that use this Mixolydian. I'm going to give you a few in a minute, so hang tight. And just try to come up with licks. Find backing tracks that are Mixolydian that you can practice over, and just come up with ideas and think melodically. Think following the chords. I'm not changing modes on each chord. I'm still using the same 7 notes. I'm just choosing certain ones for the D chord, and then certain other ones for the C chord, and then certain other notes for the G. Okay, let me catch up with the comments here. Second Chance Band, thank you there. Terrific. All right, my niece hurt says, oh yeah. No, it's good. I was thinking G major, D Mixolydian, but I love this stuff. Cool, my niece hurt. Yep. And when I work with my students, people, I also quiz them too. It's good. You know, I don't do it hardcore, but I just, you know, once in a while ask them what that note is they're playing or what key they're playing in, things like that, and just kind of make them think about what they're doing a little bit. Okay. My niece hurt says, if you master guitar, just switch to the left-handed. Yeah, see, exactly. Try it in a way that you can't do. Same with the finger tapping stuff. When I was younger, Van Halen was doing that, and a couple other guys, Jeff Watson and Steve Lynch from Autograph. And I just was fascinated by that. And I really kind of got into the 2-hand tapping stuff. So if you want to check out some of my YouTube videos, people, just go to my YouTube channel or search my name on YouTube. And I've got a lot up there. I've got like 60 or 70 videos on there. Just me playing different things. Some of them are with a group. Some of them are by myself. Most of them are solo. But you can really get a good idea of some of the different styles that I've been working on. And like slide guitar too. That's fun to do. Maybe we could do some lessons on slide guitar. So check out the G Mixolydian, everybody. Let's move that cage pattern that we initially did back at the 3rd fret. Let's play that an octave higher because we can comfortably. It's up here at the 15th fret. Just move everything from that G Mixolydian pattern that we just did up 12 frets and play the exact same shape. It's good to practice it up here too, because you notice how the frets are really close and my fingers are kind of touching each other, whereas back here there's distance between them. Okay? But it's the same geometric shape. Okay, so practice it in both spots, and eventually, once you get those little individual patterns down, then you can start exploring the other patterns of the cage system based on, from this pattern. So that's something else to think about too, because really we can play G Mixolydian all over the fretboard. When I was doing my little demonstration earlier in the lesson here, people, I was in D Mixolydian, but I didn't stay in one spot. I was kind of all over the fretboard because those notes are all over the fretboard. That's another good reason to get to know your notes on the fretboard and your scale patterns, is that it allows you to kind of play wherever you want to go. Okay. It takes practice though. You got to spend time working on these and do some woodshed. All right. My knees hurt. You're off to work. Take care. Good seeing you too, man. Cool. Next week, my knees hurt. We're going to do week 2 of Mixolydian. So we're going to be doing more of the same thing. Appreciate it, buddy. Take care. My knees hurt. All right, so now let's check out the second diagram on that page, people. G Mixolydian arranged 3 notes per string. Okay, this is another approach to do where some guitar players find the 3 notes a little bit easier to play quicker in, because every string has 3 notes, versus if you do the cage pattern ones, they're more compact, and people with smaller, shorter fingers find those a little bit easier because you don't have to stretch as far. But you notice with the cage patterns, there's always 1 or 2 strings that only have 2 notes, and then the other strings have 3. And unfortunately, though, each of the 5 cage patterns, that string or strings with 2 notes on them is different in each of the patterns. Like in this pattern we just did, the 2 note string is the 1st and the 6th string, or actually the 1st and the 6th. If I were to move up to the next pattern, the 2 notes would be on the 4th string. And if I move up to the next pattern, this is the C. This is the A form, then the G, and then the E form. It would be shift, the two notes, the string with the two notes would be shifted. So it kind of changes ideas. If you want to play sequentially, like Paul Gilbert type of stuff, or Yngwie Malmsteen, or even Ed Van Halen does a lot of 3 notes per string. Same with Randy Rhoads, 3 notes per string for a lot of the fast legato stuff. These patterns, 3 notes per string, work out really good for many reasons. Let's run through the pattern and I'll talk to you about a couple of the reasons. So this starts on the 6th string 3rd fret with your index. Then you've got to do this gigantic stretch from 3 to 5 to 7. Most guitar players tend to use their middle finger on that 5th fret. Although some choose to use their 3rd, where you can go index, ring, pinky. Okay, I like to use my middle. And Van Halen and Randy Rhoads do the middle as well. But do what feels good for you, okay? So the first 3 strings, 6, 5, and 4, if you look at the pattern, they're all the same shape. It's frets 3, 5, 7 on all 3 strings. That's pretty easy, okay? Then the rest of the pattern actually gets easier in terms of the stretching. You don't have to stretch as far. The 3rd string goes frets 4, 5, 7. 2nd string moves up a fret to 5, 6, and 8, but it's the same geometric shape. It's the half step, whole step shape we did on the 3rd string. Move down to the 2nd string, up a fret. Okay, and then the top string is frets 5, 7, 8. Okay, and you know where your root notes are in that. It's on the 6th string 3rd fret, 4th string 5th fret, and 2nd string 8th fret. Okay. Okay, now what's neat about 3 notes per string, folks, Van Halen and Randy Rhoads do a lot of legato playing where they'll pick the first note and then hammer on the next 2 notes. So they'll go pick, hammer, hammer, and you do that all the way across your scale. That's a good legato exercise. And then for the descending, we'll pick the high note, the top note on each string, and then you're going to do a pull-off, pull-off. Okay, and that's a good practice too. So you got going backwards. And then down. Or okay, stuff like that. If you like to pick every note or pick more, you can do the same idea. You develop an idea on 1 or 2 strings. Let's try it again. Okay, something like that. Or maybe okay, so it's easy to play a lot of the quick stuff because every string has 3 notes. So your picking pattern generally stays the same for every couple strings. So it's cool in that way. And it's important to know, people, too, not just your notes of the scale and not just the 3 root notes in each pattern, but the chord shape. Because like when I was playing that little rhythm earlier tonight over my backing track, I was following the chords. And for instance, if we're in G Mixolydian, not only is the G note a really good note, but the other notes in the G chord are good notes. So if you look at this, the way this looks, this pattern, it actually, all those notes are right here in that top pattern. If you look, they're all right there. In fact, if you want to do a little homework, people, go a little deeper to understanding this, tell me what notes are in the G major chord. There's 3 different notes. It's a triad, and most of the notes are duplicated, okay? So obviously the first note's G, and if you count up every other letter, that's how you get your 3 notes of the chord. This is how chords are built when you're building them from a major or minor scale, a diatonic scale. You take the root, the third, and the fifth. There you go, Richard. I'm glad some people are on the ball. He's exactly right. The 3 notes of the G chord are G, B, and D. Thank you, Richard. So you count up on your fingers, people. And that's why I like to use keys that don't have too many sharps or flats, because it makes the counting on your fingers thing easy, and you don't have to worry about where the sharps and flats are. C major has no sharps or flats, so this works out perfect. So you start with the G. G is 1. A is 2. We don't want that in the chord. After A is B. B is the 3rd degree. We want that. The 4th degree after B is C. We don't want C. And then after C is D. So we want a G, B, and a D. And you can do that with any of the chords in the key of C major. Like the next chord in our progression, G to F. The 3 notes of F are F, skip G. A is the 3rd. Then skip B. And then C is the 5th. So the 3 notes of the F chord are F, A, C. And then for the C chord, start with C. C is 1, skip D. E is the 3rd, skip F is the 4th. We don't want that. We want the 5th, which is G. So C, E, G. Now, when you look at your G chord that I've got written in the diagram at the bottom of that page, you're going to find the G is the root note. The next note you're playing is the 5th degree. That's the D note. Then we got a G again, 4th string, 5th fret. Then we've got the 3rd string, 4th fret. That's your major 3rd. That's the B note. Then the D note's on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. And then the 1st string, 3rd fret is the G again. So we've got 3 G notes in this chord. We've got 2 D notes. And then we've got 1 B note. So we don't need to have 3 or 2 of everything, but you need to have at least 1 of each to qualify as the full chord. Otherwise, like if we leave out the 3rd, we just have a root and a 5th in there. That's what the power chord is. That's why power chords often will have the name of the chord, like a G, and it'll have a little 5 after it. That number 5 refers to just adding the 5th. Okay, that's what the power chords are. It's like a root 5th. Okay, now some common examples of songs. I got a list of them here, everybody. A couple older ones. A lot of classic rock does this stuff, like "Rockin' Me Baby" from Steve Miller. He's got the rhythm going. It's kind of that rhythm. And again, he's doing the 5 to the 4 to the 1. Jet Airliner, another one from Steve Miller, is also, that's in the key of C. It's doing a C to a B flat to an F to a C. Same idea. I'm going to get more popular. This is Bachman Turner Overdrive for some of us older folks. Taking care of business. You know how that goes. What's the rhythm? It's got that little lick in there that does that. But those chords are C, B flat, F, and back to C. The 5, the 4, the 1, back to the 5 chord. Okay, if you're familiar with Coldplay, their song Clocks is in E flat. They're playing the 5 chord. Then they go to, if we're doing the 5 chord is E flat, the one chord would be A flat. So what they're doing is they're going 5 to the minor 2, because the 2 chord in every key is minor. Then they play that again. Something to that effect, okay? Another one, an old R&B song from Stevie Wonder, Everything Is All Right. That's another Mixolydian song. Here's Norwegian Wood from the Beatles. Now, granted, John Lennon's got a capo on the 2nd fret when he plays it, and he's playing it off of a D chord shape. But if you do it without the capo and just move it back and play it like this, let's see. All those notes in that little riff is in D Mixolydian. And with the capo on, John's playing the same exact thing 2 frets up. It would be E Mixolydian, is the sonic pitch of it. Okay? All those notes are in the D Mixolydian scale. Okay? It's all D Mixolydian. In fact, that's the same scale and same key I had my little song at that I played at the top of the lesson. Now, people, this is a very popular one. Guns N' Roses. Sweet Child of Mine is totally Mixolydian. And everybody's familiar with that one. I believe another one, there's 2, at least the opening part of Paradise City is G Mixolydian. See, it's going from a G to a C to an F, C, and then back to G. So it's going 5 to 1, 4, 1, back to the 5. Paradise, that was Paradise City. Sweet Child of Mine, okay, is a D chord to a C to a G. In fact, if you were paying attention, my little rhythm I played earlier tonight, folks, the one that went. Okay, those are the exact same chords as Sweet Child of Mine, except on Sweet Child of Mine, they're not playing the riffy thing like I'm doing. They're going. As open chords during the verse. And the beginning of that song too, people, the whole intro slash is awesome little riff that he plays. Okay, that outlines the D chord, and you hear once the band comes in, that's what the band's doing. They're going. Listen to what the background's playing underneath Slash's cool little intro. This is the D, C. He changes one note in the riff to make it C, then G, and back to D, and then repeat. C, G, and then the ending part. Okay, and then the solo Slash does, the 2 little ones that come before deeper in the song when he starts to shred, those first couple are all following those chords, and they're all, guess what? D Mixolydian. See how it fits over that? It follows the chords really nicely. So explore some of those songs that I just gave you as ideas. Another thing too is find some backing tracks, or what I did, people, is maybe Breezin' is King 50. You cool. I'm very familiar with the song, but I don't know it off the top of my head to pull it out and play it. I'm not going to embarrass myself on that one, but it is a great tune. That could be very well Mixolydian. But find some backing tracks and just practice over it. And even, people, if you just play them over a 1-chord vamp, just D, you don't have to worry about switching chords. You can really get the sound of the mode, especially trying to capture the flat 7. In fact, let me do this. Watch this. I'm just going to record a 1-chord rhythm with a D chord, and then I'm going to play over that, the mode, just to give us an idea. Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we got that. Okay, nothing spectacular. I'm just trying to get 1 chord that will illustrate what we can play over it. Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then run your scale. So you can also do this too. Remember, if we're doing the cage pattern, D Mixolydian at the 10th fret, that's on the diagram I showed you, people. If we move that up to start on the 10th fret, you know what? I think a better idea, let me delete that. We're going to do G, because that's the key that's on the page. I don't want to make everyone think too much on this stuff. But let me do that one more time. Put this closer to the amp. Here's the G chord. 2, 3, 4. All right, good enough. Oh, and by the way, too, on Guitar Tricks, if you're a member of Guitar Tricks, I'm going to share a couple links with you to some cool lessons that one of our other instructors, Christopher Schlegel's got. I'm going to share a couple. And if you're not a Guitar Tricks member, search them out on the web. They've got all kinds of deals going at different times. I'm not sure what the current deal is, but check them out. I'm pretty sure they've got a money-back guarantee and a trial period where you can join for a few weeks or a certain period of time. But let's go ahead and share with you. I've got 2 links I want to share with everybody. Let's do this one right here. This is called Modes of the Major Scale. Let's grab that and share it. I'm going to put these in the chat window for everybody. Boom. Okay. That lesson's on all the modes of the major scale. And then since we're working on Mixolydian, that's a major sounding mode because it has a major third. It's kind of a happy sounding mode. Okay. Let me throw at everybody some of these as well. Boom. then when we get into the Aeolian mode and the Locrian, those are minor sounding. So I'll share with you, Christopher also has some minor mode tutorials. So there you go. If you're a Guitar Tricks member and you're curious about these modes that we're learning here the last few weeks and the next several weeks, check out what he's got, because the more ways you can learn about something, you'll absorb it better rather than just learning it from one source. If you learn the information from several sources, you start to get a better picture of the puzzle. So I think that's a good thing to do. Is check out what he's got there. So let me go back to my real simple G chord backing track here, just playing a rhythm over and over again. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is play the mode. Okay. I'm going to stop on chord tones. You listen, if you stop on a note that's not in a chord, it doesn't sound terrible, but it doesn't sound as solid as if you stop on a chord tone, which is a root, third, or fifth. And that's what's neat about the diagram I've given you, is not just showing you the shape of it, but I've put all the R's are your roots, all the threes are your third, and all the fives are your fifth. So you might want to start getting familiar with those ones, threes, and fives, or the root, third, and fifths are. Okay, check this out. Here's the G chord. 2, 3, 4. Okay, listen to the scale. Okay. Yeah, that sounds. Third, fifth. Hear how that flat 7 sounds? Let's try that one more time. I'll play it an octave higher at the 15th fret. Here's the G chord. 2, 3, 4. All right. Okay, so you just kind of listen to the sound of it and listen how the notes sound against it. Let's just observations right here. Just play like the first note, root, and listen how good it sounds. And then play the second and listen how that sounds. It doesn't sound as stable. You know, the root sounds very stable. The 2 sounds like it needs to resolve. The third sounds really colorful. You know, the 4 sounds? The 4 sounds like it needs to resolve. You know, that sounds going back to the third, the 4. The 5 sounds good. It's in the chord. The 6 sounds like it needs to resolve, sort of. So does the 7. Okay, just stop. All right, stop that. But just listening to how the notes sound over a 1-chord vamp. That way you really, I think some people try to learn too much too soon. We should camp out on just 1 chord or a simple 2-chord vamp back and forth and just get into listening, not just playing the scale, but listening how each note sounds over that scale. Because those moods and those feelings that each note gives you are part of the sound and the color of the mode. Like you notice when we did Phrygian, there was a lot of darkness in that because of the flat 2 and the flat 6, especially. In this scale, and the Phrygian was a minor mode, and because of the flat 2 and flat 6, it really sounded dark and ominous. But the Mixolydian there's nothing flat except the sevens. The seven's the only flat note, and that's not really that dark of a sound. It's sort of dark, but it's not as dark as a flat 6 or a flat 2. So consider practicing over like one vamp. What's Richard saying here? If you're playing over a C triad, can you use any of the major modes? Yeah, good point, Richard. All right, check this out, folks. Richard brought up a good point. If we're just doing a one chord vamp over C major, we can use, because just one chord doesn't really tell you which mode, but it is a major chord. So the major modes would go with that. What are the major modes? It's Ionian, mode number 1, Lydian, mode number 4, and Mixolydian, mode number 5. So if we played C Ionian over the C chord and then tried C Lydian over the same C chord, you're going to hear the subtle difference because the Lydian has a sharp 4. That's the only difference between Lydian and Ionian is the sharp 4. So you really want to play that sharp 4. And then also comparing it to the Mixolydian, the only difference between major Ionian, the major scale, and Mixolydian is the flat 7. So all the other notes are identical. So really the only difference is the sharp 4 for Lydian or a flat 7 for Mixolydian. What's Marianne, Second Chance Band, saying? Always happy to stop by and support your efforts. All right, cool, Marianne. Good to see you. Have a good one. We're almost done anyway. So see if you can stop by next week and we'll be doing round 2 of the Mixolydian. So yeah, check this out. Richard, I'll close out by, I'm going to play, you brought up a good point, and that's now that we're starting to learn several modes, we can compare them now. We've got 3, and notice too that if you're familiar with the chords of the major scale, the 1 chord, 4 and 5 chords are major. The 2, 3, 6 are minor chords, and then the 7th chord is that diminished or half diminished chord. We'll talk about that. It goes with the 7th mode, the Locrian. But you got 3 major modes: Ionian, Lydian, Mixolydian. You got 3 minor modes: Dorian, Phrygian, and Aeolian. Aeolian we're going to be working on after next week. For Mixolydian, we're going to get into the Aeolian. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll compare the minor modes over a 1 chord vamp. Okay, Richard, so over the G Mixolydian, the G chord that I just strummed, we just heard, I'm going to be playing all 3 modes over the G chord. Now listen to the difference. Okay, here's G major. Here's the G chord. 2, 3, 4. Really happy. Here's Mixolydian, flat 7. Hear that note? Hear that? Hear that flat 7? Okay, let me back it up so I got some more miles here. Now here's the Lydian. Here's the G chord. 2, 3, sharp 4. Hear that sharp 4? Hear that sharp 4? Let's stop that. Okay. So it's really cool to compare them. Now, the best way to do that, though, is over 1 chord, because if I had 2 chords in that progression, that 2nd chord will have notes that are also in this scale, but they determine which mode it is. Usually, once you add that 2nd chord, it erases all the possibilities of playing different modes over that 1 chord. Because like when I'm doing the D Dorian, for instance, we had D minor to G major. Okay, if I played over the D minor chord exclusively, just D minor, I could play the Dorian, the Phrygian, or the Aeolian over it. And then we can compare and listen what that sounds like. But as soon as I introduce that second chord, the G major, it eliminates Aeolian and Phrygian because those notes have a flat 6. The Aeolian mode has a flat 6, and so does Phrygian. But Dorian has a major 6. Sounds a little more happy. And the G chord, the second chord in our rhythm, that has the B note, or the major 6 of the key we're in. Okay? See, if I played G minor, which sounds cool in itself, but it doesn't fit the Dorian mode because the Dorian has that B note in there. So very good point, Richard. I'm glad you brought that up. That was something I was going to do and next week, but I was glad you brought it up today. We're actually going to talk more about that next week anyways, comparing the modes over a one-chord vamp. Okay, so I'm going to pack it up, everyone. Good job tonight. Good questions. Good participation and the ones that answered the couple little questions I threw out. I'll see everybody next Wednesday, and we're going to do week 2 of Mixolydian. Okay, have a great night, and think about some questions you might have for these modes. If anything I can help you with, be glad to do that. So Steve, all right, cool, man. Thank you, Steve and Zane. Cool. Definitely King 50. All right. Jim, Richard, John. All right. Everyone have a great night. Peace, and keep those fingers flying, man. The only way you're going to get better is to pick that 6th string up and practice. Even if you just do 15 minutes a day, it's better than nothing. Okay. Just try to do a little bit. Sometimes those 15 minutes turn into a half hour, turn into an hour. So anyway, be good, everyone. See you next Wednesday. Take care. Bye.